Have you found yourself navigating a dark night of the soul? Are you craving a deeper connection with the divine feminine? Are you ready to integrate the balanced union of the masculine and feminine within? Then let's get started on the journey towards wholeness to reclaim your sovereign soul. My name is Cynthia Clark. Over the past several decades, I have undergone many dark nights of the soul. My healing journey has been a reclamation of my sovereign divinity. Whether you're just starting out on your self-healing journey or have been exploring techniques for many years, Discover Divinity offers an opportunity to uncover the new possibilities for discovering and reclaiming the innate wisdom within. It is time to discover the new possibilities. It is time to discover you. What if your need to be perfect is the very thing keeping you from peace, connection, and the life you were meant to live? In today's episode, Embracing Imperfection, Letting Go of the Masks, and Living in Wholeness, I am joined by a deeply insightful guest, Corrine, who has walked her own journey through the fog of shame, spiritual pressure, and people-pleasing. Together, we open up about what it looks like to live under the constant weight of perfection, especially as women, mothers, and faith-centered beings, and how we each began to unravel those beliefs and find something so much more freeing. We talk about the pain of waking up already feeling behind, the spiritual exhaustion that comes from hustling for your worth, and the moment we both discovered the concept of foreboding joy and everything changed. This is a sacred conversation about embracing the messy middle, letting go of what no longer serves, and finding beauty in the undone and unfiltered. If you have ever whispered, "I can't keep doing this," or wondered if there is more beyond the mask, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Discover Divinity podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul. My name is Cynthia Clark. I am the founder of Discover Divinity and discoveringdivinity.com. And in today's episode, we are exploring what it really means to let go of perfection and embrace the beauty of being a full human. So today we are going to talk about the emotional toll of striving to be the perfect wife, the perfect woman, mother, believer, and the deep freedom that comes when we choose presence over performance. I am joined by my insightful and courageous guest, Corrine Christian, who vulnerably is going to share her own journey through shame, spiritual exhaustion, and the pressure to always get it right. Her story is a reflection of what so many of us experience beneath the surface, and it is a powerful reminder that we don't have to carry it all alone. And so today we are going to unpack the cost of hustling for worth and the relief of finally being able to let that go, as well as how systems of shame and spiritual pressure shape our identities, the power of naming our breaking points and finding grace on the other side, and how concepts like foreboding joy can actually unlock healing and deeper self-awareness. And as we conclude today, we're going to share tools and truths to help you reconnect with your truest self, even in the messy middle. So This episode is raw, sacred, and full of grace. And if you've ever asked yourself, what if I'm not enough? What if I'm too much? Then this conversation is for you. And I would love to give a shout out for my guest. I'm going to go ahead and do her bio, but welcome, Corrine, to the show.
Happy to be here and jump into all the raw vulnerability.
Yes, this is wonderful. This has been so fun. Even prior to the show starting out, how we've hit so many different bumps with trying to get this podcast pushing record and going today. And it really has been us walking our talk and embracing that imperfection, those bumps that are trying to block us really from our purpose. And so thank you again for joining me. I would love to do a little bit of bio and share who you are with the guests, and then we'll go ahead and get started on today's episode. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
All right. So Corrine Christian is a mother to 7 children, and 5 of them by the way of open adoption. She is an eco event and group travel planner, an advocate and national speaker for fostering and adoption, ethics and relationships, and she is a soft place to land for women coming out of high demand religions and patriarchy and high control relationships. She is also the creator of Women Transitioning Amid Faith and Knowledge. And this is a sanctuary group that holds space for healing and moving forward and finding your own personal voice and autonomy after leaving. So she provides both online and in-person support, events, gatherings, and she does this locally as well as internationally. And she's been doing this work for the past 13 years. She is a connector of souls by nature, and she resides in Colorado with her kids and hot husband of 23 years, who both have made faith transitions. They run several businesses, and she has also founded the Vocal Arts of Castle Rock and is currently writing her stories of both adoption and life after leaving. So thank you for coming again, Corrine, and for this beautiful bio. I'm so happy to have you and be on a like-minded journey with a soul who really is here to make profound change on the planet. I think after we have both been through some very deep, dark nights of the soul, it has come as a catalyst to start to break us through in starting to shift and break those chains of the past and making change moving forward. So I would love to get started into talking about what we came here to talk about. And let's get into a little bit more about what that dark night of the soul was for you that brought you into this passion today.
Sweet. Okay. As we're embracing imperfection, there are 4 or 5 kids running around in my house. So if you pick up any of that noise or anybody's like, what is that sound? Just know we're doing the best that we can and hiding away in my husband's office right now. So
That is so awesome. And it may compete with the unexpected construction that I have and jackhammers and compressors. And so just embrace it. If you've got it in the background, just know that this is us truly leaning into today's topic.
Okay. So what led to that? I think I had told you that it wasn't really necessarily that night, and I know that's just, what metaphorical or whatever, but for me, it was, I had grown up in my religion and I kind of doubled down because I came from a family of like a divorced family setting. And so, I wanted to be more than what I had left behind in that faith, right? I was hustling and I was striving. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to end up like my mom, who's on her 5th marriage. And that's, pretty raw and vulnerable right there, but there was a lot of discord and there was stuff that was going on in my, home as a child that I didn't want to have in my family that I was creating. So I did all that I could. I, read my scriptures and went to my meetings and served in my callings and helped with girls camp. And, I never said no. And I made sure that I listened to the people that were in charge, telling me how to live my life and what to do. And that just kind of led to my body being flooded with anxiety all the time. And it was kind of that unrecognized anxiety that a lot of us women carry, where we're like, well, it's okay. We think in our mind, because we're also taught, right? It's okay to have that because we're trying to be our best selves and we're trying to serve God and our church, right? But it comes at a price. So for me, that dark night of the soul was the constant waking up out of my bed, not, I used to be heavy on alarms. You know what I mean? I'm like, if I missed my alarm or if something didn't go off, I'd wake up and I'd be like, how far am I behind? What am I going to do quick to make up to just be enough right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm waking up. And so immediately it was, what's my hit list of all the things that I have to do and how long is it going to take me before my kids wake up, before the next thing needs me, or whatever it was that was coming my way. And I got exhausted of just feeling like I'm already not enough upon waking.
Mm-hmm. And this is such a common pattern. I appreciate your vulnerability sharing this because I find in the business that I do and the clients that I work with, they have been so affected by this pattern, and it starts early on in their youth, like even
Well,
in
we're groomed,
utero.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's kind of like the metaphor that I always see is it's like the hamster wheel,
Mhm.
right? And it's almost as if no matter how much you do, it's never going to be enough because
And
there's
it,
always
and
something
I,
else.
I was speaking at national conferences for the church's adoption program, and I was, setting up. I was in charge of 13 states programs for the adoption and foster community within the churches. So I was helping navigate, not stakes, but states, different people all over the country, and helping them out. Was called into that position, and here I am with 7 children. Like my quiver is full. We have enough, right?
Wow.
And so I was called into like the presidency of the youth leadership that I was in, and I was instructing women and younger women and helping them out. And here I am in this position of, trust and running programs and running a boot camp out of my house, making sure that people are, getting in shape and having fun and meeting people, and also doing stuff with adoption and also reading my scriptures and also doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. And it came to a point where I just was like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
exhausted. And if this is what God wants for me, is this constant hustle for me to be enough to him, just take me now.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it be over now. I mean, that's how bad it got. I remember having thoughts of, this is vulnerable right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard. This is a lot. And I'm constantly disappointing God.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is it, it's probably just better if I just drive off that cliff.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm dead serious. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to even say that because you don't struggle when you feel safe in your body.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fight for your worth
Yeah.
when you feel okay with yourself.
Mm.
You're hustling and you're struggling when you're constantly in that state of not enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was exhausted. So one morning I'm like, okay, I'm just going to listen to podcasts when I push my triple stroller up
Mm-hmm.
the hill because I need to be enough. I need to hustle. I need to make sure I'm in shape with these little babies. And all 3 of them were adopted. My last 2 were twins. So
Wow.
here I am with children under the age of 17 months, putting them in a stroller, maybe 18 months or so, and getting out into the outdoors. And I put on a podcast, and it was a Super Soul Sunday, Oprah, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big like super fan or anything like that, but I listened to a couple. And it was this author, Brene Brown, and she
Mm-hmm.
had done her TED Talk on guilt, shame, and vulnerability.
Mm.
And
Powerful, powerful.
ah,
If any of the listeners have not dived into Brene Brown's
oh,
work,
I mean,
absolutely recommend it. Like is so helpful to be a pivot point, especially if you are struggling and you are kind of going through that dark night type of experience. And what I do want to thank you too for sharing such a vulnerable part of yourself. And by you sharing that, it is a voice to be able to help other individuals out there who have experienced the exact same thing. Like I said, as many individuals that I have worked with, this is not uncommon. And when we have fear and shame that are driving this hamster wheel,
yeah.
it gets to that point of complete burnout, exhaustion, and there's nothing that you can ever do to ever be good enough. And so I love hearing this little turning point for you because it kind of sounds like almost like that little peep of sunshine coming through the cloud to give you a little bit different perception and opening into your awareness to say, oh, here is a wake up, here is a catalyst. And so I would love for you to share more about those concepts and how they really were kind of like that light bulb moment for you.
Sure. Sure. And I kind of want to back up a tiny, tiny bit because it throws this kind of wrench in that system is that I feel like the extra hustle for me wanting to be more and better and do enough and be enough and all of that actually was kind of put into motion in my youth. I was 16 when I uh, went into the hospital and I thought it was appendicitis and it was actually a ovarian cyst. And a sweet little
Wow.
resident doctor there said, well, it looks like you'll probably never be able to have kids or it'll be extremely hard. So at
Wow.
16, I had to come to this realization that I already was not enough because now I'm broken and who's going to want me,
Yes. Yes. Well, and
right?
in an organization that pushes so much that your worth and value comes from being a mother,
Yeah. And
being
building
a
your legacy,
wife, and,
your
and those are
legacy.
beautiful roles. But there are so many women that don't have that opportunity. And what a hard thing for you as a 16-year-old to start to face,
Super hard.
to then start to take that inward and to shift, you know, what was going on in your brain to go, okay, well, what now?
Right.
And then to try to find other ways to prove yourself to God, to think, well, if I can't do this, then what else can I do
Right.
that's going to check the boxes, cross the T's, dot the I's to make me earn my reward in
Yep. To make
heaven?
me desirable, have the approval of, being enough. And, that second date question for me when I was dating was like, so, what do you plan to do as far as a family? And that's when I had to lay that down to people is tell them of my brokenness already.
Wow.
Tell them how it's already a default characteristic or flaw.
Wow.
It's like design flaw. Hey, if you want to have children with me, or, I'm probably not gonna be able to do that for you. It's very rare, but it might happen. Um, and I mean, let's be honest, that got through some of the like not so kind people pretty quickly, right? So yeah, I felt like
Absolutely.
I grew up with this like, well, I already know I'm defective, but if I can just do enough and be enough. And in our story, which I'm writing about, we ended up adopting 5 children at birth from 4 different birth mothers.
Wow.
So every time that, we were chosen, it was definitely, it was an alignment, divine, whatever you want to call it, it was beautiful, but it also was, hey, maybe I am enough. Maybe I'm okay enough, you know.
Yeah.
But then even with all the kids, like I had said, it kind of poured into that like continual striving and continual hustle. And then the catalyst is I'm exhausted, I'm tired of waking up this way, I'm doing all the things, and now I'm still feeling this way. I thought I'd get to the point with now that my kids are all here, I'm great, everything
Yes.
will be fine, you know. No, it wasn't. And here I am pushing that stroller up the hill with all these things behind me and in my head and in my body, and listening to this podcast. And Brene Brown talks about foreboding joy. And I'm like, I don't even know what that word is. And as she explains it, and she talks about it's that concept of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's putting off experiencing full joy of what you're in at the moment because you have that thought that something is so good that something bad must be following after that.
Mm-hmm.
How I don't deserve to feel all of that joy. So
Yeah.
we have to negate it with something bad happening after. And I remember getting to the top of this hill, pushing those little 3 babies up. And as she said this, it hit me. I am experiencing that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And I don't know how other people grew up that were in the religious belief systems, but for me, there was always that constant, be ye perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Your house needs to be ready for Jesus to enter it. Your marriage needs to be acceptable to God. Everything that you're doing in and outside of that marriage, and this constant thing, or else, right? The or else part, you will not be
Mm-hmm.
blessed.
Yes.
And then when the
Yes.
blessings come or the good things happen, it's like, well, is that a reward for being good, or is there something hanging over that
Yes.
beautiful blessing, that gift? And for me, it was those negative thoughts is
Yes.
I can't be this blessed. There's no way. Something's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. I'm going to die. One of my babies are going to die. Somebody's going to have a fatal accident, just something.
Yes.
That's the worst case scenario, right? But that's what we go to as mothers and as humans. We go,
Mm-hmm.
if it's
Well,
this good, it's going to be this bad.
yes, and they weave in because of our genetic makeup. These are programs that have been laced into our DNA for generation upon generation of time, is to step into that pattern of to always be prepared, right, for something bad to happen. So you can't experience true joy in that moment. And it's always the promised blessings are somewhere out in the far distance, like after you die
Yeah, that's
you're
a long way.
eventually going to reach a reward of happiness. And so, in the meantime, everyone keeps playing the martyr role,
For
right? Of
sure.
self sacrifice, people pleasing, but then also that victim mentality of the what ifs, and it keeps you in that state of anxiety and depression. Anxiety is that fear of the future. Depression is being stuck on everything that's ever happened in the past. And so something that is based off of shame and fear is actually a very sabotaging structure, because they take something that's very precious to you, your love of God, your love to be a mother or be a parent, and to love and serve and be a positive person on the planet. Yet it's laced with this fear and shame that then turns into all of the checks and all of the dots. And so you having all the children, once you reached that goalpost, there were still all the other boxes to check. And there was just nothing ever. Like I said, we're going right back into that hamster wheel
Even though
where, yeah,
almost all those boxes were checked, right?
absolutely.
I
And
get to that point, I'm like, why am I still feeling this way? This is horrible.
exactly. And it is because of that deep root of fear. It's the deep root of shame. And so I love that you've brought up Brene Brown, because she does a phenomenal job at explaining shame and helping us like unravel how shame has been toxically, if that's a word, toxically put into.
We can make up new words.
Yes, I make up words all the time, but it
Yeah.
sounds really good. But it's been woven into these programs that go throughout generations of time, and this is the beauty about those little peepholes of light that start to come through clouds. Is go, something doesn't feel right,
Right.
and when you came to that space of burnout, and you came to that space of exhaustion, waking up every single day, and I know you're probably not the only one, but to get to a point in your life where you're like, what's the point, right? Or for the individuals that look at themselves in the mirror and have such a deep self-hatred, like this is a huge topic that we've got to cover, so that we can also be catalysts to change this
Right.
moving forward. So beautiful share.
Well, and after I heard her podcast, of course, I'm like, well, I got to hear more. This sounds like the wealth of information, the wellspring that I need right now. And then all of a sudden it was like I found out she had all these books and workbooks, and she had done the TED Talk. So then I listened to the TED Talk, and I was like, dude, we could be best friends. Like, this is what I need. And I love that kind of energy when you're just so authentic. She's so raw in sharing as well. I don't know if if you have people haven't read her books, please do. She even talks about like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, body shame, and she talks about like the 12 shame categories that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually what kind of led me on my path to deconstruction. But before we get there, I had mentioned this to a friend at church, and I said, "Yeah, I just started hearing Brene Brown, and my friend's extremely, extremely well versed. She's like got a couple PhDs, you know, and she was like, "Oh, you like Brene Brown, huh?" And I go, "Yeah." And she's a person who buys a book and never ever gives it away. And so I was really shocked. She has a whole like room and a half just full of books. And I told her my feelings, and I told her what I was sitting with and processing. And she was like, she didn't say a thing. And then all of a sudden, the very next day, 7 Brene Brown books are on my doorstep from my friends.
Mm,
And
love
I was
it.
like, oh my word, she has your same name. It's great.
Yes,
She has
love
actually
it.
one of my favorite names right now, and we'll get to that in a minute. But oh my gosh. So then all I was like, okay, chronological order. So then it was,
Mm-hmm.
I just, I wanted to info binge, but I was doing it very kind of like microdose info binge because I got 7 kids for one.
Right.
And I could only do that in my mornings when I have some time before they all wake up. So at this point, I'm sitting with these books that she had. One of them was I Thought It Was Me, but it isn't. Or I thought it was just me, but it isn't. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was The Gifts of Imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it was like, bingo, all of
Huge.
us struggle with something, whether that is, are we pretty enough? Are we making enough? Are we smart enough? Are we healthy enough? Right. And as she breaks down those things, those structures that keep us in the hustle, it was like my rose-colored goggles had been removed. Absolutely. And I was like, wait a second, we're all in this human family. Even men, this is not just a woman thing, where we're constantly just like fighting for our life and fighting for acceptance and approval and enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thank her eternally for that. I don't even know if she knows that. I think I've thanked her once before, but girl, I got to reach out. It's gonna be another
Yes. Well, and I believe that there are so many people that when she did publish Gifts of Imperfection, I believe that there was I look at it as kind of like this huge light that just
conversation.
energetically started to like move through the planet because as we are moving more into this Aquarian age, and we are pushing out of those toxic patriarchal structures that have been very push mentality, all about the doing. All your worth comes in, everything that you do, and we're moving into the presence of being and embracing this enoughness because we exist. I feel like that has been one of the voices of so many that
Yeah.
are helping us move into the healing balm of the divine feminine,
Right.
weaving in with the healthy divine masculine. Because what has happened for thousands of years, we are both passionate about breaking out of the toxic patriarchy. This is something that we could be passionate about and talk for hours. This is probably going to be another podcast we'll cover because this is something like a firefly to the light topic for me. And when I started to wake up as well to realizing that there was nothing that I had to do to be worthy or to be enough, like that was like kind of one of those light bulb moments for me that
Mhm.
shifted everything.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for
It's
saying that.
huge.
Dude, okay, I'm gonna read this little tiny excerpt from Daring Greatly because you said that, which is also another Brene Brown book if you
So
haven't read
yes,
it.
there's so many.
How
Like
many?
you'll enjoy them so
How
much.
many? And it
So
says, worthiness is my birthright. It is both a reminder to practice shame resilience and a touchstone of my spiritual beliefs. And I have literally adopted that as well and helped not just my family and myself, but other people around me.
mm-hmm.
And her shame categories, as I was unpacking all that fun, the 12 shame categories, it really came down to the struggle that I had was with my religion and how I was parented, which those go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that essentially as I undid those things in my life and in the history of the post-religious belief system that I had before, all those things, they unraveled. And in the unraveling, all of your foundation is just crumbling. That's what it felt like. My
Mm-hmm.
future life plans are going out the window. All of these cultural and ceremonial and ritualistic things that I had planned for my family,
Mm-hmm.
right? All this like programming all of a sudden didn't matter as much. And the undoing, it felt like I was being shattered. I was this beautiful vase that had just been cultivated just so that it's perfect and presentable at the
Mm-hmm.
altar, you know?
Yes,
And
exactly.
then I'm realizing these things aren't true and they're not in truthfulness. And the historicity and the claims are all over the place and they're not right. And I'm realizing that I am worthy already and I don't have to hustle for my worth anymore. And that
Mm-hmm.
beautiful vase is just shattered and thrown on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm left to pick up the pieces that I want
Mm-hmm.
to put in my new creation, which is the mosaic of my life that I'm
Mm-hmm.
building.
Yes.
I'm choosing. No one else is
Yes.
telling me which box I need to fit in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually wearing these little earrings. I don't know if you can see them.
Ooh,
They're like a
beautiful.
little
I love the
butterflies. They're
butterfly.
kind of like this little different crystals that kind of represent that mosaic kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
And butterflies are like totally one of my like favorite symbols for sure.
Oh, me too. I love the butterfly, and it is so powerful because as we go through that cocoon stage and that transformed
Primordial goo.
energy, it's such a painful
Oof.
yet most transformative experience that you'll go through. And many people do go through these things more than once,
Yep.
in different layers and levels. But these are kind of like those unraveling opportunities. And I've spoken a little bit more about it on the podcast in earlier episodes, but calling them more of initiations of being those catalysts that are really peeling back those layers. And this dark night, this cocoon energy of going through the ooh and the goo is that opportunity to really melt off that mask of perfection.
Right.
And when we take off that mask of perfection, we get to also unravel those roots of shame, the roots of fear,
All of
and the
it.
roots of control that sit at many,
Exactly.
many foundations. I mean, religious, cultural, familial, relationships, like so much of these foundations are founded on these toxic patterns. And so when we wake up to that, it's almost like that ooh and that goo allows us to pull off that mask. And like you were saying, kind of like go through all those pieces. But it's super transformative because I was recently reflecting on this. And when I've stepped into my own spiritual practice of what feels true and right for me, I see ritual and I see air quotes worship. I see connection to that divine so much different than I ever did.
Sure.
But
It's gotta have a transition and a metamorphosis, just like a butterfly.
yes, and the difference between that is that I'm not being coerced through fear and shame and manipulation and control to run on a hamster wheel to provide my worth and my value to a divine entity. When I take those things off and I've peeled back that mask and I step into the pure love and true essence of who I am as a sovereign soul, I do these things by choice. And that foundation is so strong and so powerful because it is rooted in pure love. And so the
I
dark
mean, not a
night,
gift and an obligation.
yes, we let go of that and we finally get to step into that space of turning into that butterfly, right? Those painful pieces are those catalysts. They are the breaking apart. They are the having to sit with the pieces and go, who am I? What do I believe? And when you can give yourself that opportunity to sit with the pain and the discomfort that comes through that. And it's very traumatizing. And when you can finally just allow yourself to work through that,
Right.
your body can come into a new stage of awareness
Well,
to where
for
you
sure.
begin to see that beautiful mosaic, and you start to see your beautiful wings, and you get to live your life with true authentic joy,
Yep.
and you get to experience joy in the now.
Yep.
It's not something that's waiting for you in some long distance future. The joy is in presence. And
Exactly.
so it's a beautiful
That's
process.
part of the reason why what led me to wanting to be more public about my own journey is because when the vase is shattered or when you're in the primordial goo phase and you feel like, what is this shit that's on the floor? Or what is this goo phase that, and I love how Brene Brown says it. She says, the messy middle is where the magic happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we're in that, we can also get caught up and we can get stuck. We get stuck on a lot of things as women, especially women leaving the patriarchy type systems.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, well, what am I worth now? And we can struggle quite a bit for finding identity and autonomy, for, you know, um, knowing when to share our story and the
Mm-hmm.
parts of us that really are things we should only share with people that have earned our trust,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we're still, I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I left, I kind of jumped from one system of approval seeking to, well, now that I'm out of that system and I can experience everything that I ever want, it was almost like I didn't quite have it right. So I jumped into other systems and they were great. They were wonderful, a lot less strict.
Mm-hmm.
I went into a couple different MOPS programs, which were wonderful because I had all these little babies and it gave me that instant sisterhood and brunches. And I love it. It's now called MomCo, if anybody's interested. It's a beautiful program for young moms. It is very Christian religious undertones, but very safe and very loving and kind of that nonchalant, like we're here to commune together. And if you bump into Jesus along the way, great. It's a very soft landing place for me,
Mm-hmm.
very much. And I also like jumped into doing a lot of Bible studies, different groups, and just trying to see what was out there. And in a way, it was me still trying to seek approval. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be acceptable to this group. Am I a mom that has enough? Am I still doing the, church things and the Christian thing and the right thing? Am I doing that right and enough?
Mm-hmm.
It was a much gentler approach. And
Yes.
I like to look at that as the spiritual progress, the spiritual progression, right? It's like, well, I went from this very extreme to not so extreme, but here I am still approval seeking. To the
Mm-hmm.
unraveling was still happening. And then finally, one of my MOPS leaders stopped me probably 2.5, 3 years into kind of that leadership setting, probably 2 years or so. And she said, hey, I love that you can do everything. You're really talented. And I'm so grateful for it, but you don't need to.
Wow.
Don't need everything. Give other people the opportunity to serve and help and know that you're already doing enough.
Wow.
And I was like,
Beautiful.
oh crap. Yeah, no, I'm kind of repeating some of the patterns.
Yes. Well, it's ingrained so deep,
Oh,
Corinne.
yes.
And
Oh, yes.
when you think about shame, like I said, this goes through generations upon generations. So not only through religion, we've got it in culture, we have it in our political systems, our school systems. And so we do have to do an unraveling of sorts. And it's okay swinging on this pendulum when you go through these different stages of metamorphosis to the unraveling and the unweaving to experience shame on different levels. And so I love that this was another little light bulb, that one of those little light switches, because it sounds like you had several, which I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's what life
I
does
hope
is we
that,
have.
yeah, all of my life I'll have
Yes,
someone.
I know you, and that's beautiful. Like I think as the audience listening today is to, as you are listening to these stories, to maybe just pause for a moment and go, okay, where have been those little light bulb moments for me, and to take note of these little pieces, right? These little pieces of being taught, because these are going to be the catalysts so that you can find more security, more structure when you feel like you're in a complete state of chaos, to
Right.
start to formulate your own foundation again, right? Because going through the goo is like complete chaos. If you think about that vase, that shattered, it is complete chaos. And it feels like, sometimes it feels like, oh my goodness, is my life ever going to be the same? And guess what? The answer is no, it's not.
No, it's just going to get better,
you're,
hopefully.
yeah, you're never going to see the world the same. And sometimes when you go through that painful experience, there is this longing of going, gosh, I wish I could just get back in that little bubble of false safety,
Naivety, right?
right? Naivety. But then all the other problems that we were
Well, they
talking
say
about.
ignorance is bliss, but
Yes,
I
but
don't
no, it's really not, because then you think of that polarity and you think about the adrenal exhaustion,
Yep.
and you think about the diseases, the autoimmune conditions, you think about eating disorders, you think about addictions of any form. I mean, we could just go down a huge
Oh,
list
yeah.
of how perfectionism impacts people. Then you think, wow, I don't want to go back.
No, and our
Um,
body keeps a score. Like it holds
mhm.
on to everything, every positive and negative lived experience. And I do love that book. The Body Keeps a Score.
Yes.
That's for
Hmm.
Bessel van der Kolk. It's an amazing book. It's a lot. So if anybody does want to ever read that and how all of like what you're saying plays into our system, he talks about all the modalities. And then he talks about rooting down and becoming more grounded and having practices in place that help us to calm our nervous system
Hmm.
and start fresh every day. And he leans into those things as a professor, as a doctor who's going, listen, here's what's happening,
Hmm.
and on this, multi-generational level and through all of this research and all of these cultural modalities, these are the ones that are helping us to reconnect to our highest self and to our most healed self.
Yes.
And
And
it's just amazing.
and I love this too, because I do want to hold space to just give a voice to trauma. And I don't want to bypass trauma, because this is something that I work very closely with my clients with a very specified modality that can help you release trauma in the body. And so how Corinne and I are speaking today, it isn't sometimes always just going, oh yay, from point A to point B and so much grace and ease. There's a lot of messy in the middle, and so don't be afraid to reach out for support. Find the providers, find those who are certified and trained to be able to help you through these parts of when someone does go through trauma. I recently did a post that talked about someone that I spoke to, that was just nonchalantly talking about someone who had experienced something difficult and said, I just don't understand why they can't get over it.
Oh,
And I had to pause for a moment and realize, okay, this person has gone through life in such a totally different way that they were missing a huge piece of what trauma is. And trauma impacts our bodies, just like you were saying, the body keeps the score, our brains. And when you have gone through something so life shattering, through betrayal trauma, through abuse of any kind, I mean, there are so many layers of what trauma can do, is being able to honor yourself wherever you're at, and to know that healing is possible. But we have to be able to give ourselves that time that it does take to heal, and being able to learn specific tools, like you were saying, being able to learn how to regulate the nervous system, leaning into somatics are a huge part of this, tuning into modalities that can help our brains rewire the trauma so our bodies aren't reacting But just know if you are in the middle of fight or flight, freeze, the fawn, this is a very normal response. It is a part of that dark night of the soul that feels like you're never going to rise above it. And I've personally lived it in many different traumas that I've experienced. And so this is why I feel so passionate in being able to help other individuals who have gone through such deep betrayal in their life to have hope, to know that they can rewire their brain. They
You
can
really can.
rewire the body.
Yeah. And I want to share a little story about that too, because working in the modality of rewiring your brain and your bodily responses,
Mm-hmm.
personally, I had an eating disorder from like 11 to like almost 16. It's very
Mm-hmm.
common.
Mm-hmm.
When life was in chaos, so that was the one thing I could control. And I hear that a lot, right? You're like,
Yes.
one thing I had control over was what I ate or
Yes.
didn't eat. And I struggled, even though like I went through therapy at like 16 for that, I struggled still with bodily responses. And so every time I'd brush my teeth, if I scrubbed my tongue a little too much, or if I got too far back with the toothbrush, that gag reflex, or when I would rinse out my mouth, that gag reflex would set in. And it just reminded me of my brokenness and my poor choices,
Mm-hmm.
that was really, really that was an awful feeling because I felt extremely responsible for my infertility problem since I'm the one who chose to have an eating disorder.
Mm.
So that was really just a coping mechanism, and
Wow.
really, and so with the rewiring the brain and the nervous system and learning how to talk to myself before I brushed my teeth
Mm-hmm.
and how to have an internal smile and and how to reset what my thoughts were when I'm brushing my teeth to not go into that with this tension of it's going to happen, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen, it's coming, be ready for it, um all of that like negative energy. And then I just remember, okay, I've got to do this for my program, I think for that was 60 days of just trying to retrain my brain. And then all of a sudden it just wasn't there. I wasn't trying anymore and it just wasn't happening. I wasn't gagging every time I brushed my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. And then probably a month or so after this time period had ended, I remember stopping and I brushed my teeth and I set my toothbrush down and I just looked at that and I just lost it. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm so happy. I'm crying. I'm so happy."
Mm-hmm.
It's been forever since I had a thought
Yeah.
about my own past, my own
Mm-hmm.
trauma responses connected with brushing my teeth,
Yes. This is
with that
huge.
gag reflex. That it was so great. It was like I had a graduation moment. You know what I mean? I'm so
Mm-hmm.
happy it's over. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I do. Sometimes it still happens once in a while, especially if I'm like, are you trying to get those, back molars and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's no longer I wake up with that thought of like, oh gosh, get ready. You're going to have this response because you did this thing and you're broken and you're bad.
Yeah.
That's not there anymore.
Yep. It's
Retrained. And what it took
so
work. It took a lot of
huge. It is, and love that you shared this because no matter who's listening out there, they may have another layer in the way that trauma has shown up for them, and for them to really hold space to repeat that this isn't about being broken. This
work.
is the way that your body, your brain is trying to protect yourself from getting harmed or hurt again. And so, if we can really start to shift the perception and start to lean into self-love and compassion, and just like you had to do some of that work for that 11-year-old, it's holding your hands over your heart and taking a moment to say, I see you, I hear you, and I promise you that I will never leave you. And that is a pivot point for you to step into that role at being that parent for your inner child,
That's
or
what it felt like
that
too.
safe space, right? Like you finally get to be that safe space to say I'm here for you, and whatever is happening, let me hear you. And when we lean in, when we can truly lean in, I love walking my clients through this process. When we can hear what those parts of our body are telling us, they are huge because we start to open up that space for our bodies to let go of the
Absolutely.
trauma. And that's when true healing comes. And that's when we do find those foundational grounding points of feeling safe and supported and secure. And especially after betrayal on so many layers and levels, this is earth shaking. And someone who hasn't been raised in such high demand religion or high demand perfectionistic familial programs, sometimes it's so hard for them to understand, because when I've talked about certain things, like jaws are dropping going, oh my
Totally.
gosh, like
But you
is that really like real
okay?
life? Like things that a lot of people don't experience. And so just know, because someone else hasn't dealt with that doesn't mean that
Right.
what you went through isn't valid,
Right.
because there are
You don't
so
invalidate.
many that have gone through these things, and your body response, your trauma response is valid. It is real. And when you can finally just lean into yourself and say, I promise you, I'm going to do everything that it takes to show up for you, and we are going to get through this.
Right.
You're going to start to trigger that nervous system to say, okay, someone has my back,
And
and that
it's
person is me. Yes. And we finally get to step into that safety. And it takes practice. It's part of that rewiring process, but this is how we step into working with the nervous
really didn't
system and
happen
body.
overnight, right?
No, it
There was no
doesn't.
magic fairy wand. I'm still looking for mine, by the way.
Yes. Oh, well, well, and life is continually teaching us.
Yes.
But especially during those deep ooh and goo moments, these are when the body is going through trauma responses. This is where we get to hold that deep space to go, okay, I'm listening to you, and I promise you take whatever time you need, because
Mhm.
I'm gonna let your voice be heard.
Right. And that
And
is
it's so
huge,
powerful.
huge. And that's part of the reason why I leaned into like opening a safe space online. So for me, what I noticed when I was, in that messy middle phase is that the groups that I was in online that were co-ed and men were sorting through all of their emotions and their processes, which is great. We all need to. But in that space, women were still pretty much kind of being skirted to the side. There was still stuff that's really deeply seated in that patriarchal part of men where it's still very dismissive and also demeaning and demoralizing. And so I was like, listen, I want to create a safe space for women, particularly. And I wanted it to not just be for one type of women who has left whatever one system behind, but all women that have left any high control, high demand, cult type, and high, what's it called? Extreme belief system or extreme relationship, because they're all rooted in the same thing. So I first started off this group as this very like private secret group. I was like, I don't want anybody to find it. I just want the people that I know or my friends know. And so it started to build slowly. And it's still, I would say, a rather small-ish group because that is the safe landing place still. It's still set to private and it's not set to secret anymore. So you can find it now, but you can't just automatically join it and you can't see anybody who's in it. It's one of those kind of
Mm-hmm.
parameters. But in my messy middle is where I wanted to get that sorting out and I wanted to provide that for other women. And I also wanted to make sure that we're getting together because connection is my jam. It really is. And as I have been going through that metamorphosis, through that change of really finding my own authentic voice and finding my autonomous self, I've realized that I don't want to do everything. I don't want to keep hustling, but I sure as hell love connecting. I love hearing stories. I love learning about people who've come from different backgrounds. I love connecting people who I've heard that story of this girl, and I've heard this story about this woman, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they need to meet each other. They would be amazing together. And it's almost like creating these new friendships and new marriages. You're like bonding these souls together. So for me, as I've leaned into that and really just decided and taken that, that layer off of having to people please and having to approval seek, which took work, we were talking about. It's really just been one of those things that as I've leaned into it and have been more authentic and real, people are like, wait a second, this is refreshing. I want to be here and I want to grow and I want to continue, or I want to mentor other women who are doing the same. Not that I have, a serious mentorship program or anything like that, but we've invited women of all different backgrounds to come into this place and to be seen, to be loved, to build new community, and to really have that new sense of belonging that we all left behind when we left those systems or relationships. That's
Absolutely.
we all desire community. We all desire
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to other humans. And, even with our vast different backgrounds, I'm quoting Brene Brown again, but maybe she's quoting Maya Angelou. I don't know, but she said it's really hard to hate people close up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we
Yeah.
really lean in and we hear their story, totally different from ours, how can we not find that part in our heart that's compassionate, that's empathetic or
Mm-hmm.
sympathetic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like you're talking about, like we don't invalidate anybody else's lived experience. Like why invalidate someone's experience? That's almost like a trauma response because they're triggered, right? They're like, wait, hold on, that's not me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when you sit with that, the whole part of hustling for your worth and striving to be perfect in everything is a trauma response. We, heaven forbid, and my sis, maybe shouldn't say that part. Heaven forbid you see that in yourself and you say, hold up, maybe that sounds like me. Maybe that's where the leaning in happens for someone, and it comes, like you said, in layers and in doses. And one of the quotes that I pulled up on that trauma that we were talking about, the hustling for our worth, was this quote. And it says, a trigger is often, a trigger I often see in trauma survivors is the anxiety that surfaces when no one needs them. They feel grounded when they're helpful, useful, fixing something. But the moment things go quiet, when there's nothing to manage, solve, or take care of, their body floods with unease, self-doubt, panic. It's not codependency. It's what happens when emotional safety was earned, not given, because being useful once was how they stayed safe. It was how they earned affection and avoided rejection. And I'm like, whoo, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Powerful.
Ah, And now being in this place after, I would say, many, many, many years, many books, many groups, many different things that we've joined, the collective efforts of undoing all of that, you eventually heal and get to that place. And never fully healed. I think we're always constantly in an ebb and flow, but you get to that place and you're like, I don't care what other people think anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the male gaze to be acceptable as a woman, right? I don't need you to approve what I look like. I can show up gross out of the gym and sweaty and not care
Mm-hmm.
that you are looking at me that way. Like, I don't need your approval, which is such a beautiful, free place to finally get to.
Mm-hmm.
Or finally be like, I'm enough just as I am. I belong everywhere, no matter what I look like, where I'm struggling today or not. And waking up with that immense amount of peace is probably the biggest, most, hard earned reward, really. It feels like, oh, I get to wake up and breathe and I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm not behind. The house is not burning down.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are okay. for the most part, might be eating Cheetos while they're watching a cartoon. Who knows? You know,
And that's
still
okay.
enough. Like I'm still okay. There's piles of laundry in my living room that the kids are sorting through right now, and I'm still okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me, building that safety and community, having other women to connect to and other souls to glean from and learn from, just like you. I got to listen to a couple of your podcasts and I was like, whoo, yeah. I think we continually learn, continually be a
Absolutely.
lifelong learner, you know,
Absolutely.
and yeah, here, I think at the last part that we were talking about was you had asked me, why do I feel passionate? Because and I shouldn't say that. I don't want women to struggle as much as I had to struggle through that. And I also feel like I
Mm-hmm.
got the gift of knowledge and information with those stack of books, right? Like beautiful
Mm-hmm.
psychology built around guilt, shame, and vulnerability. And to be able to pass that wisdom on and to do what my friend Cynthia did for me, I think I've given almost all of those Brene Brown books away, or even ordered people some online. I'm like, you need this. This is
Mm-hmm.
going to help you, and that for me, like, I just don't want people to be stuck longer than they need to be. And I want them to have that safe and grounding place so that their nervous system can start to re-regulate and self-regulate, whether it's like, hey, you need to listen to Cynthia's podcast, your podcast, or you need to go onto this book, or hey, this is a really helpful tool, or I know this woman who's really good at helping with the nervous system. Um, Whatever those tools are, like I love that I can help connect people to all of them because I'm not all of that. I never will be.
Yeah.
Never gonna
And
have everything.
absolutely. Like these are beautiful and coming into, like I said, the Aquarian age, that divine feminine energy that's coming in to bring in more of that presence. We are breaking out of structures of toxic patriarchy that has not only impacted women but men just alike. And so my privilege is working with both men and women. And it's really interesting for me to see how toxic patriarchy has affected both and the impacts and how that unraveling and that unweaving is taking place. And so just know that if you are a man that is listening out there, just because we are very much focusing on the woman and the impact of toxic patriarchy, know that you as a man has also been affected by this. And there are so many ways to help you unravel all of these pieces and impacts of the way that it has affected you. And so know that I'm not leaving you out. Like, this is something that I definitely want to address. I'll definitely address it very specifically in another podcast episode. Today, we are very much focusing on this impact, how it has affected women. And Corrine, I did want to point out something that I've noticed as we are kind of moving out of these hierarchical structures. We have been in more of that toxic energy where it's all about the push, it's about the competition, it's about, I'm going to get higher up on this ladder. And eventually it's like trying to come up into this peak. And what's happening with the divine feminine is we are crumbling that structure and we're coming into this circle. So we as individuals offer so many unique and beautiful gifts as we come together and gather in circles as women. And so with the work that I do, the retreats or the gatherings that I bring women together, it's so beautiful because we're breaking out of those old structures and patterns. If you think of high school or middle school and all of these toxic ideologies that were created to pin women against women,
Oh, that's so
a
true.
hatred of women, we have a role and an obligation, I guess, obligation in a good way, to break these paradigms and to come to the circle and to feel safe, because so many women have felt beaten down, judged, rejected by other women. And so for us to be able to provide those safe spaces, to move out of hierarchy, to come into the circle, come into the innate wisdom that each individual has to share and to feel safe, to step into vulnerability, we move out of those toxic structures of having to show up with every hair in place, everything perfect, and it's a facade, right? When nothing's perfect. And stepping out of that old storyline and coming into the space of being real, raw, and messy.
Yeah.
That's true authenticity. That's a true space for each and every individual to live their truth. And when we each safely come forward and can be our true, authentic, messy, real selves, that makes it safe for everyone else to do the same. And we crumble the hierarchy, we step into the circle, and we move forward with this wisdom and pure love that we're meant to live and breathe on the planet now.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it shocks the system.
Mm-hmm.
Shocks people because people will be like, how are you doing? Like that kind of like fakeness, like,
Mm-hmm.
how are you today? Or how's
Yes.
it going? And it's funny because I had to rewrite that as well.
Yes.
I had to say, I am not saying, I'm good, I'm great. You know what I mean? I don't say that anymore. When people ask me how I'm doing, I'm like, well, I'm actually sorting through 7 loads of laundry right now and I haven't showered today. How are you? I'm
Yes.
okay. I'm surviving, but I'm not in my best.
A lot of people don't know how to
You're
react to
like,
that because, yeah,
right?
we've been taught on a societal level to just have the superficial, oh good, oh good,
Right.
and there's never an opportunity to dig deep because we're working with generational programs that were taught to pull your bootstraps up and to grin and
It's
bear it.
Babylon.
And it was the self-sacrifice mentality, and it was also the perfectionistic viewpoint and the martyrdom, the people pleasing that created this mess in the first place. But as you and I have experienced this raw, real messiness, having to lean in these really dark corners and parts of ourselves that aren't all pretty and put together and magnificent, and truly show up, just like I was saying earlier, and we put our hands over our hearts and we say, I see you, I hear you, and I am here for you. I will never leave you. When you lean into that part of you and you love every corner of it, you give such a new space for every person that you meet, and the judgment washes away, the shame washes away, the control, the fear, and there is love that comes in such a different way that there's room for everyone.
Yes.
There's no competition, there's beauty, there's celebration for another beautiful woman that's next to you, and you get to
Maybe
celebrate
nothing
her.
like you. It's totally
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, you get to celebrate her wins. She gets to celebrate you, and there's not the competition. There's joy, there's love, and that's my hope. That's my intention as I help my clients, just as you, to be able to strengthen the woman and also the man. Like I said, I work with men too, very personally. But as we start to shift these paradigms and we embrace that divine feminine energy from within, we will change the world. It is like that ripple effect.
It is, and it's one person and one life at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
sharing a story today on this podcast, or shooting somebody a text message that's honest, right, versus fake, and it invites them into authenticity. It invites them to share energy with you.
Yes.
Been holding in, like,
Mm-hmm.
every little thing matters.
It does.
Every voice matters. Every story needs to be told, even if
Yes.
it's just for the intention of getting it out to set it free.
Yes.
And the amazing part of overcoming that perfectionistic, whatever you want to call it, of overcoming that, is that all of a sudden you're not burdened down mentally and physically with having to show up as this super well put together, just all these things. And don't get me wrong, my husband might complain sometimes. He'd be like, "Really, you didn't clean the house today?" I'd be like, "Bro, it's busy. It was busy. We'll get there." But then I would say things like, "Do you really want a happy wife, or do you want a clean house?" you know. And
Right.
I'd be like, well, sorry, he realizes these things. But as we're stepping into this place of taking ownership of our joy and not having foreboding joy, we feel so passionate and so much positive love and energy in our interactions with our humans, with people around us, with our children, with our spouse. I mean, love only got stronger. It got
Mm-hmm.
bigger and more intense when I was finally able to say, there's no other shoe that's going to drop, and you're allowed to enjoy
Mm-hmm.
in this moment.
Yes. And that is the power of taking off the mask. And although if you're not in a space as a listener that you're feeling quite ready to take that mask off, know that it's okay. Like, I realize that the nervous system, the subconscious, it takes time. But there is a true power that when you do finally lean into taking off that metaphorical mask and sitting with some of those uncomfortable corners,
Yes.
that you will be pleasantly surprised. And just like Corinne was saying, that love, when you're approaching your life from a place of pure love, the reason or the way that you do things is so much different than when you did it based off of fear and shame and control and obligation. When you do something that is just based off of pure love, you naturally have the ability to do in ways that are healthy, healed, and whole, because the divine feminine isn't about just like sitting in a meditative pose all day long and not doing anything, right? Because the divine feminine actually bridges us back into those healthy components of the divine masculine, which is structure. It is that support. And so when we live in the space of presence, we live in the space of worthiness, pure love, it's a new catalyst for us to heal those wounds of the past and come back into a structure that is love led, not fear led.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that, I mean, if that's the only takeaway, is that the messy middle is worth it. It's worth it because everything changes.
It
Everything.
does.
Your love, your light, your energy, the the attraction of just people who want to step into that with you. It's
Yes.
like I feel like it's snowballing. Like I'm like in a beautiful way, right? Not a bad one. Like this is just keep
Beautiful.
bigger and better and more wonderful. And I have so many tools that I've gained over these past 7 years that I'm like, it's like you're overflowing, your cup's overflowing. You just want to share it with everybody. You just want them
Mm-hmm.
to feel as happy and have the same amount of joy and the excitement about life. Like it's like The Giver when things start coming into color. I don't know if you've read that book or seen the movie, but it was like all
Mm-mm.
of a sudden the world is colorful and bright and it's not gray and black and white anymore, and
Exactly.
it's the lights are on. Everything is just so the intensity of your life and your passion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just magnificent. It's otherworldly. It feels like I'm living in the heaven that I've created.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what
Absolutely.
it is. And I don't know how to say it any other way because it doesn't make sense. It's like
Yes.
feels out of body in a little way. And then sitting in that space of being okay with feeling blessed or feeling we don't always love that term blessed because we think sometimes it comes from a different place, but feeling with all of those emotions that you have that it's okay to feel
Mm-hmm.
absolutely full of joy and gratitude and love.
Yes. And to
Not,
know that this doesn't have to look like everything's happy
oh,
every single day after day, because you can experience that joy Like we were saying before, when you have 7 loads of laundry, when you have construction workers digging in front of your yard right before you're supposed to record a podcast, or even when you are in some of these darker times, there is a different perspective of believing that everyone or everything has to be positive.
Right.
And it doesn't. Like, we get to embrace these corners of the sides of ourselves that feel sad, that feel angry, that have jealousy, that experiences grief. And these are the parts of life that we also get to celebrate in this space of transformation and metamorphosis. Before, we were just trying to bypass
Oh, for sure.
all of that. And now, as you lean in to presence, you get to accept all the dark, the light, the shadows.
All of it.
And as you lean in and you love those parts, that's when you step into joy as well. And
Amen.
so it's huge. So I feel like this is like a perfect round down in what we've
Yeah.
been covering today. Is there anything else you would like to share before we close up for day? It's been like super awesome to share with you this powerful conversation.
Thanks. Well, there was a couple things we were kind of talking about at the end. It was like, you're like, well, what tools would you give for other people? And I'll be
Yeah.
really quick on that. Tools that people can walk away with or join in a community, both online and in person, get into groups
Yes.
and meetups and gatherings and connect. Connection is a huge part of healing. And it
Huge.
really is the first way, right? Because it's usually if people are resistant to say one-on-one coaching or therapy or, sitting in vulnerable places with somebody it's it's harder, it's much easier to walk into a community to see someone face to face and then build that relationship of trust, and then they say, hey, well, I have my friend Cynthia, you should really do a session with her if you're interested in this part of your healing journey, right? We invite them in. uh, Obviously we're kind of taught to be very much outreachers, which I like that part of the component of the system I left behind.
Yeah.
I like that I am picking up these pieces that I enjoy still. I like being financially conservative. I like being friendly. I like, these different parts about me, or these things that were taught to me that are good and positive. And I can leave
Yes.
all the rest behind. So besides joining in community and connection, be willing to embrace that messy middle. And like you said, that's a whole process for sure. Let people see exactly where you are and take off that mask that you said, that damn mask that's holding you back from being authentic. Understanding that we don't actually need to know people's thoughts about our choices and actions. That sets us free. Practice makes progress. Try letting your friends come over with a pile of laundry on your couch, like I have right now. Okay. Like I
Yes.
said, on here earlier, my friend who's another therapist came over and I was like, listen, I'm talking about embracing imperfection. And I was like, look at my house. And she was like, this is perfect.
Yes.
There's darts everywhere. There's like kid laundry, shoes, it looks like a well lived in house where kids are having fun, right? But
Yes.
sometimes it's very scary. People are like, well, what if they judge me? Right? Just try it, give it a try. Um, it was then I love this little tiny story that my friend who'd only seen me in a very dressed up settings, because with my eco events, I plan a lot of things for women, co-ed things as well. She'd only seen me with all gussied up and with my makeup and dress on or whatever. And those 3 times that she'd seen me, she was like, this girl's perfect. Right. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's a layer. That's just like one angle of me. So here I am at pickup line getting my kids in my big, huge Sprinter van. And the door opens and out rolls like a sippy cup and a like empty bag of chips. And she happened to be the one opening the door. She goes, she goes, you're human. I'm so glad you're a real person. She was
Love
like
it.
so happy that like I was like, listen, we're busy. Like it's just life, and how great that we both kind of had a chuckle about it. That it gave her the freedom to be like, you don't have to show up all dressed up all the time. Like, come over in sweats. I don't care.
Yes.
So
I
try it. I
love
think it's
this.
good. And
Yeah,
then
that
immerse yourself in some good authors and good people.
Love it.
And I can send you those authors that I've enjoyed, obviously, in my little like notes for this podcast. But
Let's do it. I'll put it in the description
yeah,
below.
it's just immersion
Mm-hmm.
therapy. I know some people don't love that word, but like I really do. I see that as a really good way because it helps with the rewiring of our brains.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're learning a new language, which it is. I mean, learning new educational things, it's a new language
Yes.
for our brain. And our amygdala response, like you were talking about earlier, you know, we have to retrain that for our prefrontal cortex to really do that neurosynapse myelin journey, to have those connections to fire off to that reasoning and logic center.
It's huge.
We
It's
have to.
huge.
So
Yep.
immerse, don't be scared of that. Jump
Yes.
in.
I love it. Those are all amazing. And each one that you were talking about, I was like, oh, yes, that's awesome. And I think, those are a lot of really beautiful tools because, especially where we have come from these highly structured, masculine ways of living, sometimes moving into presence and stillness feels scary.
Yeah.
And so to have like a little structured tool bag on the side is actually very healthy for those parts of us that are traumatized because it gives us direction and a way for us to have something to follow while also in the process taking those moments to just push pause and go, there's nothing that I have to do.
Nope.
I actually can just take a minute and breathe and be present. And these are some really beautiful catalysts that can also support us in our tools in the way that our brain wants to move forward. Our body also gets that piece of presence to remind it that it's safe. When you are moving forward in solutions, rebuilding your foundation, we get to show up for the brain, but now we get to show up for our body too. And presence is huge. Showing up in our real, raw, messy space, having other people who are able to show up in that real, raw, messy space is huge. And I love that you shared that story about the sippy cup and the outfit, and that's the reality of it. And I can identify, especially running my business the way that I have for so many years. When I first created Discover Divinity, the way that I was doing everything was very structured. It was very masculine, push, perfectionistic. And so it has been through the years as I have leaned through a lot of those dark nights of the soul, those crumblings, that I have had to just allow my body to be in stillness. And the greatest gift that I've ever given to my community, to my clients, is to show up in those other corners of myself, those hard stories that I've been through, and sharing those parts of myself. And so that's our hope today too, both Corinne and I, is to say, hey, we're real people.
Yeah,
And it's safe. It's
totally.
safe. And this is how healing, the trajectory of healing is moving forward, is in real, raw, messy authenticity.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. So anything else as we're wrapping up? This is great.
Ah, it is good. I think the one thing, just to reiterate what you're kind of saying, is like that last little bit of tool is to take it in doses, and to take it slow. Like you can jump in for sure. Don't be afraid to jump in. But if your speed is like, listen, I need to eat the elephant one bite at a time, that's great. A small practice that will help with that is that morning meditation, that morning grounding, and
Mm-hmm.
reading something positive, whether it's a page in a book or an affirmation from a calendar thing. Sitting with that starts my day off so beautifully. That, and I try to go see the sunrise if I can, or get my feet on the grass, or I shouldn't say or, but and getting in some sort of meditative pose or yoga
Mm-hmm.
stretches, inviting the body to feel and engage in all the moments that are ahead of me for that day. And
Beautiful.
I love that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for doing this podcast.
Yes,
It's
it's
so
been
fun and it's been
wonderful.
raw and messy and real. I love it.
It has. We've had all kinds of fun things in between. So thank you for showing up. I want to thank you so much for your vulnerability, the wisdom that has come to the table today that reminds us that we're not meant to do life alone.
No.
This community is so important. Finding someone that hears you, sees you is so important, but also coming back to that, the most important person that gets to hear and see and validate you is you.
Bingo.
Yeah. So as we close today, I'm really grateful as we've kind of taken these pieces, and really being able to see the beauty of it, creating this bigger mosaic that we all share that comes from the journey of unlearning perfection and choosing wholeness instead. And I hope all of you have been able to see your own story through this and be able to find that little peephole of light that's giving you more clarity. It's giving you more wisdom, more courage to pause, to breathe, and to begin to release the masks that you've been carrying. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your presence. It needs your realness. It needs your humanity. And you are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be loved, especially by yourself. So as you move through the rest of your day, I invite you to let your good enough to be wildly sacred and share space with people who truly celebrate the unpolished you. And remember that healing does not have to be lonely. Know that you are not alone. And we are all just walking each other through this journey in that circle that I was talking about before. So thank you so much for being here, showing up, and being a part of this beautiful, brave community. And I am honored to walk alongside you.
Thank you,
Take
Cynthia.
care. Yes,
Thanks
thank
for
you
doing this
again.
podcast.
Yes, thank you so much.
All
And we
right,
will
bye.
see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Discover Divinity podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to check out discoveringdivinity.com. You will find resources to reclaim your sacred, sovereign spirituality. Here, you can join the Discover Divinity community, where we have free online community classes, as well as done-for-you courses and programs. Navigating the unique personal path to wholeness can feel overwhelming at times. If you would like further support or are ready to take your healing empowerment to the next level, I offer one-on-one intuitive sessions in a variety of different packages where we will discover, release, create, reclaim. Discover your innate wisdom that lies within. Release the imbalances that prevent you from living your truth. Create harmony in body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, and relationships. Reclaim your sovereign soul. It is time to discover new possibilities. It is time to discover you.